his conduct.
Debate Me channel here. Here is my expectations, or here are my expectations for conservative media today. So far, what I've seen is that conservative media absolutely agree with the Democrats. They believe that Donald Trump was wrong. They believe that he actually incited the riots. They believe that basically Trump was absolutely wrong and the impeachment is absolutely warranted. Now, you're probably wondering, what in the hell am I talking about? Because you've probably, first of all, you know that would not go in line with what you'd expect from them. And perhaps you've seen what they've been saying in terms of this is nonsense and freedom of speech and all this kind of stuff. But my subscribers, a little bit deeper thinkers, and they understand that what someone says and what they actually mean and what they actually do, not necessarily the same thing. People will say a lot of things, mean a lot of other things. What they say and what they mean, not necessarily the same thing. So what they're saying, absolutely, they're going to be saying this is nonsense, Trump did nothing wrong, or whatever it is. They're going to say something in defense of Donald Trump. However, I try to get to the truth, try to get to the facts, try to dig deep and figure out what's really going on, as opposed to what people would like you to think is going on. And to get to that truth, I look at the actions which speak louder than the words. So what have we seen? First of all, complete censorship of the post-attack on the Capitol situation. Dozens and dozens of stories completely suppressed by conservative media. They have not been reporting on them. Officers Sicknick, the suicides, all the people that have been arrested. They've been completely ignoring it, complete blackout and cover up in conservative media. They cover those stories all the time when it's Antifa and Black Lives Matter and someone on the left. So we know they have an appetite for this type of news stories. So the fact that they're not covering it shows that they know that it makes them look bad. Then further evidence of that is the AOC story. AOC says she thought she could have died or whatever. Tim Pool jumps on that right away. She's being too dramatic or whatever it is. Then another story comes out like, oh, she wasn't even in the Capitol building, even though she didn't say she was in the Capitol building. They go nuts. Everyone's posting 2, 3, and 4 videos about AOC. The same conservative media that's been ignoring all the post-attack stories, all of a sudden, now they want to talk about AOC, right? So clearly, they are suppressing the Capitol attack for a reason. And what do you think that reason is? Now look at the impeachment. So when impeachment first started, they weren't really covering it, weren't really saying much. This is a major event. Second impeachment, trying to bar Trump from office, all this kind of stuff. This is a big story. But conservative media, silent. They don't want to talk about it. They don't really want to get involved in it. Then you have a couple of them. They do these propaganda pieces rather than actually show the trial, rather than actually show what's happening and educate their audience on what's going down as far as the impeachment trial. They do these spin pieces where it's all their opinion and slanting, oh, this is nonsense and the Democrats, like, that's fine to have your opinion, but show the audience what's actually happening. Now, these same people, if CNN did that, and they do these kinds of things, they would call it out. They would be like, CNN is not showing what Trump actually said. They do this edited thing, and they take little bits and pieces, and then they go with this partisan whatever. That's exactly what conservative media is doing on steroids. I saw, I think the person who showed perhaps the most, and by the most, it's still tiny bits, was Crowder. But he kept talking over it. He's just like, oh, nonsense. And the Democrats, and by the way, when Antifa was deflection, all these little games. But the bottom line is, it's not about agreeing or disagreeing with their opinions. It's the fact that they would conceal the impeachment trial itself from their audience. It's not like they're showing the impeachment trial or even pieces of it. Like you could show the entire 20-minute presentation of Trump attorney, 20-minute presentation of the Democrat attorney or representative or impeachment manager. And then you can rip them apart. You can say, oh, that was useless or whatever. They were not even willing to do that. They're only allowing their audience to get the Bill Barr report. right? You know how Bill Barr did the Mueller report. So they're spinning it from their perspective. This is how we feel about it. Of course, it's all pro-Trump. It's all whitewashing what's going on. So that was day number one. Day number two, things got really bad. The presentations on the second day of the impeachment trial were just like, oh my goodness. I was very pessimistic in the beginning. I'm like, this is a waste of time. Well, I'm going to say that. Not a waste of time, but in terms of, I don't think Trump's getting convicted, right? Very, very negative. When I saw day two and I saw how they presented everything, then I said to myself, wow, this could actually have a result of more Republicans flipping. That's how bad it was, devastating. So right away I knew, watch and see, no one's really going to cover this at all. Like, they barely covered anything on the first day. Second day, you're going to see coverage in conservative media plummet. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Now, to complete the final proof and analysis of how much the conservative media actually agrees with the Democrats, today is going to be Trump's lawyers. If we see a surge, not a major surge, but a somewhat substantial surge of coverage in conservative media today, then we know that it's very clear that they agree with the Democrats. Why? Think logically. Why would they half-ass coverage in the beginning, right? Very slanted, very spin, don't really show it. Then when things get really bad in terms of what was presented on the second day, in my view, I was like, wow, that's a devastating blow to the Republicans. They're going to look really bad not convicting Trump after seeing all this. On that day, they clam up again, big time, right? So if they open back up when the Trump attorneys are making their cases, whether it's good cases or not, logically, like let's use some common sense. Why would they be hiding when the Democrats are speaking and then show back up when Trump attorneys are speaking, beyond them being partisans? Because even being partisans, if you thought the Democrats didn't have a case, you would show it. You would actually show your audience and then do your analysis and say, hey, this is nonsense. The Constitution says blah, blah, blah. But when they deal a devastating blow and then you don't cover it at all, and then you show back up when Trump's attorneys step up, clearly you agree with the Democrats and you realize that Trump was wrong and he did incite the riots. And because of that, you are protecting him and the swamp creatures in the Republican Party by suppressing what the Democrats are saying and amplifying any little bits and pieces that are coming from the right. Notice, by the way, that in the beginning, the Trump attorneys did very, very bad. But yet I think it was Blaze TV that posted a series of videos that try to frame it that they actually did make a case. They were like, Trump attorneys deliver bombshell, blah, blah, blah. Like 3 or 4 videos they posted like that. They didn't post anything of what the Democrats said, right? They weren't even willing to post the Democrat side speaking and then say, you know, Democrat lawyer makes a ridiculous whatever. Clearly, the Blaze TV agrees with what the Democrats are saying. Otherwise, they would have posted it and clowned it or told you how it's dumb. The fact that they're hiding and suppressing what the Democrats are saying shows you by their actions they agree with it. And if they all show back up today, which is what my prediction is, then you know
this appalling abuse of the Constitution
pretty much that conservative media agrees with the Democrats. In spite of them pretending and playing games and pandering to their audience, deep down inside, yet again, they know what's up. But they choose to play games, just like the liberal media they like to mock. Interesting. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.
On the ellipse was in any way.
And by the way, MSNBC is very, very partisan. They have a lot of propaganda on their channel. But look what they're doing that conservative media didn't do.
Ever be construed as encouraging, condoning, or enticing.
They are showing the impeachment trial with Trump attorneys making their case. No commentary, raw. So their audience can see for themselves what's being said and decide for themselves. Garbage CNN did the same thing. They put raw clips of the Trump attorneys and the Democrat representatives, raw and unedited, with clean titles. I just said them making their argument. No bombshell this or Trump attorneys flop, none of that stuff. That stuff was all conservative media. They spun everything. They made everything very hyper-partisan, very propaganda, bombshell, everything pro-Trump, defense of Trump, and suppress the Democrats on what they're saying. It's very, very clear, ladies and gentlemen. Conservative media agrees with the Democrats. And I'd even go further than that. They probably recognize that they are part of what led to now 7 people dead. They were part of that. The very reason for the insurrection was the belief that the election was stolen. And that belief was amplified by the very conservative media channels who are now in hiding from the truth.
That should be taken to improve democratic.
I forgot one more thing. As far as how this is going to go today, they're pretty much going to ignore all of the details in terms of how this was a process, months and even years, right? It wasn't just a speech. They're going to ignore all of that. They're going to pretend as if it's just a speech. And then they're going to look at the speech literally and say, he didn't actually say violence. He said be peaceful. They're going to play that game. They're also probably going to pretend like this is a legal proceeding. And they're going to try to say or try to make legal arguments. They know that this is not by legal standards, but that's what they're going to play that game. And just to understand how this works, imagine we're having a meeting trying to potentially remove a CEO from his position because he's very toxic. He's just mean to everyone, calling everybody names. Now, that's not illegal. You can call people names. You can be mean, right? We're not dealing with a legal matter. However, being toxic makes you a very bad CEO. And presenting how toxic you are is a solid argument for your removal. That's what we're looking at. Not whether Trump broke the law. Whether his actions disqualify him from ever holding public office again. That's what this is about. And another game they're probably going to play is they're probably going to say that you can't remove him from office, he's already removed, when it's about preventing him from running again. And of course, they're going to try and deflect and show Democrats saying things that could be considered inciting violence, as if 2 wrongs make a right. A juvenile argument to make, but these are juvenile people.
Founders and lawmakers